For my entire life playing video games, which ones I played was dictated by the box that was sitting underneath my television. And even going back to the days of my Sega Genesis, I loved playing Sonic at home, but I equally loved going to friends' houses who had the Super Nintendo to see what Mario was up to. Little guy just running around, jumping, little scamp. I never really bought into the console wars idea, but if they were real, they're definitely over now. And I don't think Microsoft or Sony came out ahead. In fact, I'd say 2025 in particular was a year where these two companies did enough damage to the value proposition of owning a video game console that I'm finally ready to say goodbye to both of them. We just spent the past couple weeks reorganizing our whole apartment, which included taking every single thing we own and deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to give away, and what to sell. So that's like taking every single book and putting on the ground and being like, which ones do we actually want to keep and which ones should we give to friends or donate to a library or whatever, and copy paste that idea to video game handhelds and movies and furniture and everything. And eventually, it also came down to these two. I haven't played my Xbox in probably about a year. In fact, this is a very dusty video game console. You probably can't tell because of this beautiful Starfield wrap that I have on it to highlight the best game on the Xbox. But 2025 was a year where Xbox had a large-scale boycott mounted against them and also increased the prices of Game Pass without increasing the amount of stuff you get with Game Pass. On the Sony side of things, I plugged my PlayStation 5 in twice last year. Once was for Borderlands 4 because I heard that the PC performance wasn't good, so I thought I might as well play it on a console. And then again for Ghost of Yotei, a game that I liked, but put down for reasons I'll explain in a minute. The commonality between both of these companies, specifically in 2025, was their increased presence on PC. This is a thing that's been happening for a long time. Obviously, Xbox is owned by Microsoft, which makes Windows, which is the PC, basically. But Sony's been in this realm of taking their first-party games and releasing them on PC as definitive editions in 12 to 18 months after they're released. What that means, then, is that if you want the best of both worlds, the best thing to do is just buy a PC, and you can have one library with every Xbox Studios game and every PlayStation Studios game all in one place. Sony would like to have you believe that the PS5 is the best place to play PS5 games, but the truth is that it's just the first place. All they've really done is create a new exclusivity window just for their own console. But PC gets everything, baby. So for 2026, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and get rid of both of these consoles and move to PC full-time, because it just makes more sense from a cost perspective and also a practicality perspective. A lot of this idea came from the announcement of the Steam Machine, something I'm personally really excited about. And during Black Friday, I actually bought a PC that has almost exactly the same specs as the Steam Machine, and I wiped Windows off of it and I put SteamOS on there. And I've been using it basically daily for a couple of months at this point. And I love it. I really love it. The weird shift for me is now I'm going from a primarily TV-based video game player to a primarily desk-based video game player. As a person who makes YouTube videos like this and streams on Twitch and has a podcast and all that kind of stuff, playing games at the desk is not a new phenomenon for me, but making it the primary place to play video games, that's kind of new. Making the move to a desk-based setup for everything that I do, from work to podcasting to now gaming, means that I'm spending a lot of time sitting in exactly this spot. The biggest drawback of leaving the couch behind is that loss of comfort, which is why I partnered with LiberNovo to integrate their Omni chair into my new desk setup. Now, first of all, I just have to mention, I've never done an ad for this channel before. I spent a lot of time looking up people's real opinions about the Omni chair before I said yes to it, and yeah, it turns out people legitimately really love this chair. And I get it, because it starts when you unbox it and start to put it together. It took me like maybe 20 minutes max to put the whole thing together, which if you've ever put together an office chair, that's pretty quick. And also, I spent a lot of time just like showing things to camera to make myself laugh during the time lapse I was taking of putting it together. So maybe closer to 15 minutes, really. But now that I've been using it for like a week, I totally get the hype about it. It is seriously the most comfortable office chair I've ever used in my life, definitely. They've built a chair that dynamically supports your body using what they're calling the bionic flex fit backrest that changes depending on how you're moving in the chair, so you don't need to spend any time adjusting, the neck rest or the arm rests or anything. I tend to get lower back pain pretty frequently after an injury a couple of years ago, so having a chair that is specifically designed to support that part of my back while I'm sitting for a long period of time, It's exactly what I wanted. And I also just have to mention the built-in massage function. So this thing runs off a battery that just charges with USB-C, so you don't have a cable coming out of your chair, which is nice. So anytime you can use the switch on the side to recline in one of 4 different backrest positions, and the last one is 160 degrees, and if you have this footrest, it's extremely comfortable. And if you have the battery plugged in, you can also press this one button on the armrest, which enables the Omni stretch massage, which basically just stretches out your lower back over and over and over again, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Actually, when we decided to give away most of our stuff, we invited a lot of our friends over and said, hey, just like come over and take whatever you want. We put everything in one room. We said, just like take whatever's in this room. But a lot of people were coming into the office and just taking turns using the Omni stretch massage on this chair. People were going nuts for it. People loved it. As you can tell, I'm already a pretty big fan of this chair, not just because it's a sponsored segment, but because it's legitimately very comfortable. So if you're interested in the LiberNovo Omni, link in the description, baby. So again, under the desk, I have this PC, which is basically the Steam machine, and it runs really well. If this is anything comparable to what the Steam machine is going to run like when that thing comes out, I think people are going to be very happy with it. But if I don't want to play games at this desk, I still have a lot of really good options. I've been using the Iron Thor a lot recently. It's a great Android handheld with 2 screens, and I've been using the top screen to stream from my PC, a lot of Persona 4 Golden in particular. And on the bottom screen, I have a guide open for social links and enemy type matchups and things like that. I also have the ROG Ally X, the non-Xbox one, for when I leave the house. If I want to play games on the go, if I'm going on vacation, which I am next week, I have that, and I'm going to take that with me. Out in the living room where I used to be playing most of my games, I have a small mini PC that used to be at this desk. That thing is a little bit more powerful than the Steam Deck, if that's any indication of what it can do, but it can also stream from this PC to that one. So at the end of the day, I still get this performance out there. I think in general, the Steam ecosystem is just really alluring to me. Not only am I getting all of the games from both consoles if I want them, but I'm also getting the ability to stream them all over the place, and it's keeping my save files in the cloud so I can just pick up wherever I am. I will say the one outlier in all of this, which is the most notable, is the Nintendo Switch. I do own the Nintendo Switch too. Nintendo's always just playing their own game. You know, they're always doing their own thing. They're off in their own little corner, and games released on the Nintendo Switch will never be released anywhere but the Nintendo Switch. And the same has been true of every single Nintendo console generation up until now. And it'll continue being that way forever. And it's funny because I remember way back in the day, like in forum GameFAQs days, people saying, just get a PC and whatever Nintendo has out and you'll be happy. And I feel like that has always been true, but it's never been more true than it is now. If you want to play every game, get a PC and the Nintendo Switch too, and you'll probably be happy. So that's where I've landed at this point. I'm playing games mostly here. I'm streaming them if I'm not playing them here, and I have the Nintendo Switch too as well, which is great. But it's just weird to be in this position, to have finally come to this conclusion. It feels like it's kind of been a long time coming. You know, I think this entire console generation in particular has been a weird one. You know, when the PS5 and the Xbox series of consoles first launched, there was some excitement around them, but they were hard to get because of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff. But increasingly, I just don't feel the appeal of them, and I know I'm not the only one out there who's feeling this way about it. When I finally had the Jimmy Neutron brain blast moment of, oh yeah, all these games are coming to PC anyway, so why wouldn't that be the thing I invest in? Especially knowing that the PlayStation 6 and whatever the next Xbox may or may not be, is supposed to be coming within the next year or two and will probably be wildly expensive. It just made a lot more sense to invest in PC now instead of seeing a sticker shock moment when those 2 consoles get announced. I think the other notable thing is that both consoles are more expensive now than they were when they launched. And again, what are you getting for those increased prices? The only reason that they increased was A, because of tariffs, and B, because of the increased component costs. I just don't know if it's worth it. So not only are you paying more now for things that you could have bought for cheaper before, but also when the next console generation rolls over, when we get into that 2027, 2028 realm, there's no guarantee that the library that you have amassed on these consoles will actually carry over into the next one. It's nice that they've been doing it for the past couple generations, but it's not a given. It's not always a sure thing. I think for the people out there who, like me until very recently, were playing on console primarily because of the ease of use, because it's just a thing you buy, you plug and play, and you're off to the races, that's really where SteamOS changed the game for me. Because as soon as I started playing games on the Steam Deck, I was like, this is just a console-like experience from top to bottom. And I will say having a PC that has SteamOS on it, It's basically just a console, and it works fantastically. It's definitely not for everybody, and I want to make that very clear. This is not a situation where I'm trying to tell people like, hey, everyone should switch from console to this, or everyone should get a PC, wipe Windows off of it, and put SteamOS on it. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But for me and my purposes, and maybe for your purposes, it's been very seamless. Yes, there's some tinkering you have to do in SteamOS every once in a while. Yes, you have to go to like the Linux desktop and type something weird into terminal or whatever. But for the most part, I just turn it on. You know, it has sleep and resume, and I play a game on it. And it's as simple as that. Same as it was with the Xbox, same as it was with the PlayStation. That's always been the missing link here in the PC side of things, and that missing link has been filled in by Valve, thankfully. It's really great. I know Microsoft is trying to do their own thing. They have their their Xbox game experience that you can put on PC handhelds and stuff, and on the new version of Windows. I've used it. It's not very good. I don't like it very much. It really feels like a half measure before they go full like SteamOS style Windows environment. But for now, it just feels like a company playing catch-up. But I really question like how long Xbox will be around in particular. I think people forget that a brand the size of Xbox can just go away one day. I mean, I mentioned the Sega Genesis before. The Sega Dreamcast was the last console they made. But I think if you had asked people during the Sega Genesis era, do you think that Sega will just poof out of existence in terms of being a console manufacturer, people would have thought you were nuts. They were the only ones who held a candle to Nintendo at the time. Who would fill in that gap, possibly? I think the era of Xbox having basically an endless rope of Microsoft money to use is over. It just seems like that's the direction it's headed in. The irony here with Sony is that they're like just cruising, baby. They're just doing the same thing they've always been doing, basically just increasing the budgets of their first-party games since the PS2 era onwards, making big cinematic experiences, sometimes trying to adapt them into TV shows and movies and stuff, and people are buying the PS5. People seem to like it a lot. People like those games a lot. They're going to be just fine, I think, at least for now. Did they take a huge bet on a bunch of live service games that super didn't pay off? Yes. But do I think PlayStation is going to go away anytime soon? No. But again, it just comes down to this commonality between the two of them, which is that both of these companies are now very invested in releasing all of their games on PC eventually. Xbox is doing it day and date. PlayStation is waiting, a couple months to a year. Sometimes things are still day and date. Like the upcoming Marathon, I think, is day and date on PC as well. But now for me, as a person who is primarily playing on PC, I'm not like missing out on PlayStation games. I'm just waiting for the definitive edition. That's fine. That's fine by me. So all that said, it's time to say goodbye to the Xbox and the PlayStation. They served me well, but I don't really see a use for them anymore in my own life. And again, you might disagree. You probably likely disagree. But I think at this point, it's just time for me to move on, at least. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this one. Thank you to LiberNovo for sponsoring this one. Like, comment, subscribe, all the stuff that YouTubers tell you to do. Glad to be back in the new year. And I'll catch you in the next one, everybody. Bye-bye.